Hello, welcome back to Honey Badger 3D Print and Paint. Today, a video 4 months in the making and we're only just starting it. So Additive 3D, a company based out of Peru, have been talking to us for about the last 4 months, and we have been talking about this. This is an Ender 3 conversion kit to an Infinite Z. It turns your 3D printer, your Ender 3, into a belt printer similar to the CR30 for if you already have the Ender, it turns it into a CR30 for close to a quarter of the price. And if you don't have one, you could still go and buy a brand new Ender, fit this kit to it, and it still come out at half the price of a CR30. That's a very big claim. The CR30, as many people know, is a belt-driven Infinite Z printer. The assumption being that it continuously moves the bed around on a treadmill so that you print at a 45-degree angle, and then you can print on your Z forever. You have to use a special version of Cura to get it to work properly, but you can print long pieces like a sword or a windmill blade, or that's about it. But you can also print or a pull cue or a stick or a really long bit of filament. All of these things are possible and more. Probably not that much more. But what's probably a little bit more interesting is the automation. So once you have finished a print, you can then tell it to start printing either that print again, and it will just continuously print them, throwing them off the end of the bed, or print that one and then print a sequence of other things. Now, there's been a lot of coverage on the CR30. Naomi Wu worked directly with Creality to bring that CR30 to life. There's been more than a little bit of controversy around it as well. More than once, Creality have tried to take the belt printer away from Naomi Wu. They have tried to take her name off of it. They've tried to sort of remove the rights from her, despite the fact that she was absolutely key to trying to get that to work. Now, those all pieces aside, this is half the price. If this can do what a CR30 can do for half the price, then we know for a near fact that Creality have been price gouging. They have been one of the only belt printers that's on the market outside of things like the black belt and things like that, which, although they initiated the idea, they never really mass produced that belt printer. So let's take a look at what's in the box. So under normal circumstances on the channel, we would have done this on a live stream, but we were acutely aware of how many mistakes we were going to make in putting this together. So we didn't want to do it on a live stream because we wanted to try our best to actually get this right. So
they also do this kit for Sidewinder.
They also do this kit for a Sidewinder. Now, my only issue with that is that I don't really see how it could be that much bigger, and I'm more than happy to give up an Ender to this. So this Ender 3 has got our Black Knight kit on it, which is the all linear rail kit. I'm going to be honest with you and say that even with the linear rail kit, we aren't keeping this printer as it is. We don't like the tool head. We almost exclusively print with direct drive at this point, but frankly, our go-to machine at this build volume is the Longer LK4 Pro. It is astonishing, but even if we didn't have the Longer, then we'd use the Focus Odin 5, which we have one of, or we would use the Artillery Hornet that we have, or indeed would use the Gufu Mido that we had. Quite frankly, the only time we're going to use the Ender is when we have no other options available to us.
Or we get a new kit.
Or we get a new kit and we're doing some testing. So, big old bag of screws. A large amount of aluminium extrusions. And then we come on to all of the machined aluminium parts.
I think this is also going to come in 3 different colours. I think at the moment,
Wire extensions.
these are the sample ones for testing.
Right.
So they're all one colour. I think they come in red, green and blue.
Right. So that is all of the kit. We have a bunch of new linear rods. All of the aluminium extrusions there. And then obviously we have our ender. So let's just take some of these out of their packets and take a look at them. So the first thing I'm going to say is that these parts, so they are aluminium, they are metal, and they are machined and painted very, very nicely. Belt E3 logo, or name on there at least. These are some big parts. You know, these are custom machined, no burrs on them, very well done parts. If I had a criticism about the aluminium extrusions, it's just that these ones, oh okay, well it doesn't really make any difference. They've not been cleaned after they've been cut, they've just immediately been wrapped, and you can actually see that if I show you these, you can see inside there's still some of the shavings from where the aluminium's been cut. But when you take off the sticky back actually removes almost all of those burrs with it. So they are so they are actually clean. They look like they're filthy. So a couple of little burrs on that, and I mean the aluminium extrusion's a bit sticky from that, but overall really nice. So again, all those burrs coming straight off. So they look messy when you get them out, but they're actually not. They're clearly machined with the polyurethane on them, and then they're packed up for shipping rather than being cut and then covered. So that's why, because they're getting cut and then all the shavings are falling down into the aluminium grooves. But that's why the plastic is taking the vast majority of that off. Okay, so let's get started. So my dismantling is probably going to be a little bit different to yours because I still have the Black Knight kit that's on my Ender 3. That being said, I'm going to go through it in as much detail as I can, but what we'll do is we'll run the video at double speed, okay? So I'm going to follow the instructions that were included for the the E3 belt. I'm going to try and do it in the order that they're doing it in, and what I'll do is I'll make sure there's a picture-in-picture of me full screen, but then also some closer looks at the machine. I've already taken off my Z-rails that were on here, and I've put back on the original stock X-axis kit here. The only caveat that you'll see right here is that I still have my linear rail on my X-axis and my X-axis plate from my belt kit. From my Black Knight kit. I'm going to try and keep that on there. I don't like the Ender's X-axis anyway. I would very much like it if I could keep the rigidity of that Ender 3 rail. And the big thing for me is these V-rollers are objectively bad. They wear out. The linear rail really isn't going to wear out at any sort of speed. So I'm going to try and keep that. Other than that, I think we pretty much dismantled the whole thing. So, without further ado, I'm going to get started. So, bring up the kit. Taking a look at what we're doing. So, there are a couple of 3D printed parts in this. So one is there's a bracket that sits on the front that's really sort of a scoop to knock off any prints. And there's a 45-degree bracket that the 45 axis end stop bracket that you print. Both of those were included on an SD card for us. So I have those printing right now. And as we go through, you'll see everything that needs to be done. So first things first, you remove the spool holder. Mine's already off. Then we disconnect the power supply. Down there. Then we remove the power supply. So my power supply is fitted a little different to yours because, again, mine's got this kit on it. Mine is actually side mounted. Okay, so 4 hours this took to get all of this together. So just so we're clear, the only part that is left over from the original ender is this Y-beam. This is it. Now mine's got a linear rail on it, yours won't have that, but this is the only part from the original ender that's still left. Obviously we've still got that that Y-end stop on there as well. Don't need a Y-end stop on this, so it doesn't matter. Now we haven't done the electronics yet, so we'll move on to that in a second, but technically speaking that should just be plugging some stuff in. So let's just take let's just do a very quick overview before I delve into the electronics to talk about how this kit was to put together. So I would be lying if I said this kit was absolutely perfect, but it is good. So so a few of the parts where they've had their paint put on, they haven't allowed that tolerance in the holes. So when you're screwing the screws in, screws that shouldn't have a thread now effectively do because they've scored through the paint. A couple of the aluminium extrusions still have little burrs on them. The only real complaint that I have is when it comes to doing the rods and all of the and the bearings. So the rods are so tight in these bearings that there was points where I had to tap them on with a hammer. And you don't want to be smacking bearings with a hammer. Like, it's not good. But outside of that, I'll not lie, this is pretty bang on. So everything's in here, everything's mounted. I'm impressed with the overall kit quality. Didn't need to use, I used a couple of my own screws, but that's just because I couldn't find the bags. And then when I was clearing up afterwards, because my desk is always a mess, I found those afterwards. So, so without further ado, I'm going to start doing the electronics. Now, there's something weird that I have noticed, which is that my my control box is upside down. It's definitely meant to be this side. So I don't really know why it's upside down, but my fan isn't on the top. My fan's underneath. So I don't know whether or not I've got a weird old ender, or like I don't know why that's that, but it is. So most of my wiring comes down here. This is all the Extruder Hot End Wiring. We've got one bit of wire that comes from this side, which is the I guess the what they would class as the Z, but the way I'm thinking of it is more the, yeah, I would think of it as the Y because it moves the belt, but whatever, it's fine. You know, it prints the way that it prints. So I've then obviously got all my screen cables and stuff over this side. So with that in mind, let's crack on putting this back. What's going to be the best way to put this up? I suppose it's going to be to put it up like this, I guess. Nope, I don't like that. Do I like that more? Yeah, I like that a little bit more. Okay. So that's everything plugged in. I'm making the bold choice to put everything sort of back together, because I have nothing but profound confidence in my skills. So it's not the most beautiful bit of wiring I've ever done. You can see that there's sort of still a bit of a rat's nest that comes out here. But what I want to do is I want to get this turned on so that I can figure out whether or not what I've done is going to work or not. See that? None of that catches, so that's good. Definitely made that Bowden tube just ever so slightly too short. So I'm going to have to change that. Bear with me, callers. Right, Bowden tube's changed. So we're not having to worry about I'm just looking now. See, the thing is I feel like that bed and the springs aren't high enough, and I don't think there's much more like height for the Z. I feel like it should be I feel like maybe that Z needs to go down a little bit. Okay. Right, well, God help me. Oh, so first things first, we need to flash the firmware. Firmware comes on the USB stick that's included. So if I just go into here, and I go here. Right, firmware bin is on here now. We pop that into there. And then there's nothing to do but plug it in. Well, that's interesting. That's why. Give that a minute for the firmware to flash. Okay, 4 hours, 4 outfit changes, but we're here. We have a functioning belt printer. It's printing at the moment, as you can see. It's currently printing a Benchy. So let's talk quality of kit first. So this is the only thing I have left from the Ender 3. This is the centre pillar that normally your bed would sit on. Mine's got a linear rail. Yours would obviously have the bed on it normally. That's the only thing that's left from the Ender 3. Everything else has been used. So nothing really has gone to waste. But let's just talk the actual kit. So all of the aluminium parts are machined very, very well. Most, if not all, of these extrusions are milled near perfectly. There was a couple, so when you saw when I was unpacking, they'd obviously been machined with the cellophane on. So there was some shavings inside. I was a little worried that was going to mean there was going to be damage to the paint. There isn't. I mean, other than the fact that red's not really my jam, like, you know, I think it's brilliant. The kit took a little while to go together, but I will say the instructions were bang on, right? So the instructions were exactly what you needed them to be. They, you know, did exactly what they said on the tin. Nice and easy to follow, nice and easy step by step. All the screws were there, everything else. I cannot fault the kit at all. It's a little fiddly trying to get your bed perfectly level after this. I actually found, so I still had stock Ender 3 bed springs on mine, and what I found was that that those weren't tall enough, because the bed actually needs to go up flush against this belt surface. So I've actually used nuts and screws to keep that completely static where it is, and you have to sort of level this section. So just sort of the rear half needs to be level. So I've done that. All the instructions on how to do that are in the instructions as well, which again are very well written. And I mean, it works, man. Like it works. Like, I mean, yeah, it's a belt printer. So here's some of the things that I cannot get my head around, right? So the kit right now, if I remember rightly, is, in fact, I will get it right. The kit right now is $320 because they're actually having a sale, which means even if you buy that and you spend the $200 buying a brand new Ender 3 just to turn it into this, a brand new CR30 is circa $1,000. If what you need is a belt printer, if you need that Infinite Z, you've got one for half the price. So there's only a couple of caveats I'll make about what we have here. First is that we, so you'll see one of our previous videos, we did a Black Knight conversion for our Ender 3, right? I've managed to keep the linear rail on my X. I saw no specific reason to take it off. It fits, it works, I like it, holds my tool head nice and sturdy. I wasn't going to take it off if I didn't have to. And the board that's in this is not a stock Ender 3 board. This is the Silent 4.2.7, which, if anything, made it a little bit more work for me, because the chaps who are doing this had to write me a new bit of firmware with my board in mind, because they were writing firmware for a stock Ender 3. I mean, what can you say? If you need that infinite bed, this is by far, by half, the cheapest way that you can go about doing it. Now, I'm under no illusions, right? There's a couple of open source guys who are saying, you know, we're releasing the files for this kit for free. And that's fine, but these aluminium parts, you know, they are sturdy as hell. And once you've bought the bed, the rollers, the bearings, the rods, everything else, the new belt system, all of the new extrusions and everything else, you can't be far away from the price that this kit costs. You just can't be. $320. It's about 275 English pounds. I mean, look at it. Ah, look at it. I'm so excited. I don't normally get excited about some of the printers that we get here. It's very rare that we have something that's genuinely new, genuinely different, genuinely something that we haven't seen before with a new badge or a new extruder or whatever. But then enters this, and it's just awesome. If you've already got an Ender 3, you should get one of these just for the giggles. Do you know what I mean? Especially if you've got a spare Ender 3. If you've got an Ender 3 you aren't using, enter Federer and get one of these bad boys. I'm madly in love with it at the moment, and I'm going to be playing with this over the next few days. We're going to get this video out so that you can see the build, which you'll have seen is sped up. And then what we'll do is we'll do a follow-up video showing some of the prints that we got off of it. And what we'll try and do is we'll try and utilize some of that print space, right? So we'll do a sword, we'll do a couple of other sort of long dagger things and stuff like that. So we can really show off why you're using this over, you know, a traditional 3D, sort of a traditional Cartesian or whatever. But I mean, come on, man, it's cool. If nothing else, it's a conversation piece for the few people that come in my garage. You know, that sounded weirder than it was meant to. But yeah, I mean, brilliant. Well happy with it. Awesome kit, good quality, the right price. These guys haven't made this kit and then gone, yeah, they haven't made the kit to a price, and they haven't made a kit and then overpriced it. They have tried to keep this as cost effective as humanly possible. And I would debate that even if you had printed all these parts and they were as good, which I doubt they would be, but even if you had managed to do that, I would still say you are not far away from having these parts as they are. Really impressed with it. Don't forget to like and subscribe, guys. We'll have a full review of this coming out in the next few days after I've had a bit more of a time to play with it. But I'll get some pictures up of this benchy soon as well that's printing, and we'll see how it's doing. Thanks very much for joining us, guys. See you soon.